Name one thing that doesn't count. Tell me one thing that you are genuinely bad at that makes you no money and that you never posted about. Take a second, actually answer it. And notice what your brain just did there. It went looking for something that counts, something that sounds like an answer. It skipped over 3 or 4 true things because they felt too small, too stupid, too embarrassing to say out loud. And it kept hunting for a version that would survive being said. That hunt is what this whole video is about. Because there was a point in your life where you genuinely had an answer to that question, and it was the easiest one ever. You had about 9 answers, and none of them were impressive, and you did not even care in the slightest. Something happened between then and now. And I don't think it is that you got busy and that you just grew up. I don't think it's that you got boring. I think that doing something purely because you enjoy it stopped being a good enough reason. And I want to show you exactly how that happened. Because it didn't happen inside you. Why can't you answer, what do you do for fun? Here's the version of this you've definitely lived through. Someone asks you, what do you do for fun? And there's this second that you pause, right? And during this pause, you're not exactly thinking about the answer. You're auditing it. You're trying to figure out whether this answer is good enough to give to this person, whether they'll think less of me or something like that. And then most people do the exact same thing. They answer with an attached defense. I've just been getting into cooking lately and I'm trying to get a little bit decent at it. I play a bit of guitar, but I kind of do it badly, obviously, but I'm still learning. I go to the gym, I'm trying to be more consistent. Listen to that. Nobody just says the thing. Everybody bolts on little justifications. I am improving. I'm not serious. Don't worry. I know that it's not that much. That's not modesty. That's a permit. You're showing somebody your paperwork for a thing you do on a Tuesday evening for no reason. And the fact that you feel you need paperwork means somewhere along the line, a rule got installed in your head. The rule is that your time has to be doing something. It has to be building towards, working on, getting better at something or the other. A thing that just is, that has no output, that feels like it needs an excuse, because apparently being happy wasn't enough. It's not that you got busy. Now, the standard explanation for this is, you're an adult, you got busy, life happened, and I want to push back on that. Gently, because I don't think it survives 30 seconds of genuine thought. You're not out of time. I'm not out of time. Go ahead and sit down and write down every single thing that you did today, and I can guarantee that you can find 2 or 3 hours that you could have just had free. If it was purely a time problem, that time would have gone somewhere else. So it's not that you can't find 2 hours in your day, it's that when you do find 2 hours, the thing that you pick has to be something that doesn't ask anything of you. Because anything that asks something of you now comes with the question, and what is that for? That's the part I want to name properly. You're not missing discipline, you're not missing time, you're missing permission. And permission is a completely different problem, which is why none of the advice that you've had works. A time problem gets fixed with a calendar. A permission problem doesn't give a shit about your calendar, because the thing standing in the way isn't a gap in your week, it's a rule in your head about what your hours are allowed to be for. The permission that you're looking for comes from nobody but yourself. So let's go find out who wrote this rule. Nobody says hobby anymore. Let's start with a word, because words are where you can actually see this happen. I haven't heard the word hobby in a little while. Genuinely listen for it. People have started using the word side hustle, side project. People say my thing, I've been working on something. All of these words have a direction in them. They point at a future where they're building something. Hobby doesn't point anywhere. That's what a hobby was. It was a dead end that you enjoyed. It was something that you did because it made you happy. And I want you to think about the generation before us for a second. Think about somebody's grandfather in his garden. Think about, them going ahead and going to play golf. It did not scale, and, they weren't exactly worried about the money or statistically, and they probably weren't even that good at these activities. They were just genuinely enjoying. Nobody ever asked them what it was for. It was because they had time that they wanted to use to make themselves happy. And that's a whole category of thing that used to just exist. The shed, the model trains, the badly knitted scarves, the guy who fishes and catches nothing. Not one of those things that passes a single test we'd apply to it today. If your friend told you that you'd spent every Sunday for 11 years on a garden nobody sees, some part of your brain would go, okay, but is he all right? That reaction is new. It's very, very new. And it isn't wisdom, it's a rule that you inherited without ever agreeing to it, likely because of you looking at the internet where everyone is doing something. Gate 1, does it make money? So here are the 3 gates a hobby has to go through now to be allowed to exist. Gate 1, does it make money? Search literally any activity and add the word monetize. Baking, running, reading, painting, every single one of them has an entire industry of videos explaining how to turn the thing that you like into income. And they're not villains, they're mostly just people answering demand. But the demand exists because we all have quietly accepted a very strange idea that an activity earns its right for your time by paying you back. And the trap in it is beautiful and awful. The second money enters a thing that you love, you can no longer do it badly. That's the mechanism. When it was free, a bad day was just a bad day. Once it's income, a bad day is a loss. You can't experiment because experiments don't sell. You can't take a month off because the algorithm punishes a gap. The thing you started doing to escape from obligations is now a second job with a worse boss who is you. People say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I think the honest version is do what you love for money and eventually you will need a new thing to love. Because at some point it will stop being about the thing and it will start being about the money. Think about this from the point of view of affirmations as well. When you used to be a kid just drawing for fun, you would always wait for your parents to say that it was great or your teacher to say that it was great. Once that stopped happening, you stopped doing it. It's the exact same thing now, but for money. I went looking and I couldn't find one. I want to be honest with you here because it would be very easy of me to make this video as a guy who has just figured it all out. Of course I don't have it all figured out. I asked myself the question at the very start of thinking about this script. One thing that I'm bad at, that makes no money, that I've never posted about, and I sat there and I genuinely could not find one. Now that it took me a while, I went through my whole week and every single thing will end up hitting one of the following gates that we're talking about today. It either pays money, it either builds towards something else, or just ends up in front of people. There is nothing in my life that is just mine, that goes nowhere, that I'd keep doing if nobody ever knew about. That's not a humble brag, it didn't feel productive when I noticed it. It felt like finding out a room in my own house had been converted without me ever realizing. So I'm not up here having fixed this. I'm not here to be like, oh, listen, this is how you do it. I'm not here to sell you a course on how to be better. I'm here because I'm in the exact same hole myself. And I think a lot of you are in the same hole. And I'd rather say that out loud than do what everyone else does, which is hide it. I don't want to pretend like I'm on the other side of it. The reality is that I'm just as stuck as you and would love some suggestions. Gate 2, does it make you better? This one is a little bit sneakier than the money because it looks healthy. Progress is good, getting better at things is good. I'm not going to stand here and tell you your improvement is a scam. The problem is when progress becomes the only permitted relationship that you're allowed to have with an activity. Everything has a number on it now. Like streaks, levels, personal bets, pages read this year, words learned. Your walking even has a score, your sleep has a score, your number of times that you've journaled straight in a row, that's a personal one. There is an app for the concept of resting and it will grade you on it. And what that does to a hobby is quietly but completely totally ruin it. An activity that you cannot measure starts to feel like it isn't happening. If there is no number moving, some part of your brain files the whole thing under wasted. There's a film everyone quotes wrong about this, Whiplash. People treat it as motivation. It's a horror movie. The teacher in it says that there are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job. And half the internet wrote that down as a life philosophy instead of noticing that it destroys everyone who believes in it, because underneath it is one sentence and it is in a lot of us in a much quieter form. If I'm not getting better at it, there is no point in me doing it. That sentence sounds like standards. It sounds like a rule that deletes almost everything. But the point is, why is it that your enjoyment and the fact that you are happy doing something not considered enough? Why is growth the only metric that allows you to be fulfilled? Or is that even the metric, or is it just the rule that you have convinced yourself of? Gate 3, does it make a post? And this is the one I think has done the most damage because it doesn't require you to actually post anything. You don't have to be a creator, you just have to have grown up with the option for it. There is a camera in the room right now, even when there isn't, you have your phone. You do the thing and some low-level process in your head is running in the whole time. Is this like a shareable version? Would this look good? Is this worth showing? And the moment that process is running, you're not doing the thing anymore, you're producing it. You've split into the person doing it and the person watching them do it. And the watcher has notes. Watch what it does to the choice itself. You pick something new and within about a day, you're already imagining the version of you who is good at it. Being seen being good at it. That's not enjoying it, that's auditioning for it. And when you're bad in it for the entire week, which you will be because it takes time to get good at things, it doesn't just feel hard, it feels humiliating because you've got an imaginary audience watching you be bad. You've convinced yourself that, oh, I'm really, really shit, why am I even trying? And then you quit. Quit a hobby just because you weren't good enough at it within the first few days. That's not because, you weren't enjoying it. That's because you've decided that if you don't improve fast enough, you need to judge yourself. The most private thing that you own in your life, which is your time with yourself, you've now installed an audience on it because that's just what we've gotten used to. Nobody built the gates on purpose. So, who did this? And here's where I have to be fair, there is no one in a boardroom where they decided to kill your hobbies, right? Three things stacked up, and none of them were aimed at you personally. One, wages stopped comfortably covering a life. So, extra income stopped being greed and started being sensible. Once that's true, unpaid time genuinely does start to feel irresponsible. That's not a character flaw, that's arithmetic, right? And it's the reason that monetization gate feels like maturity instead of pressure. Two, platforms can only reward what they see. A feed cannot register a thing that you did not put any output on. So the visible world slowly becomes entirely of things that are produced by someone. And a whole generation calibrated that as normal against a window that structurally cannot like show you a man in a shed just chilling. When it does, we do enjoy it a lot. But here's three. There is an enormous industry built on the idea that you are a project. Optimize, track, level up, become someone. It sells you the tools, the books, and the guilt all in one purchase. None of these three need to conspire. They just all point the same direction, and where they overlap, there's no room left for a thing that is simply yours, just simply yours to have fun with. The machine doesn't hate your hobby, it just can't see it. And the things it can't see, it stops caring about. And when you see that nobody cares about something, a part of you has decided that you shouldn't care about it either. You gave away the last room with no judge in it. Now, here's what it actually costs you, and I want to be specific because we lost hobbies sounds like nothing. Think about where you are evaluated. At work, obviously, output reviews, performance, online, constantly likes, replies, a number under everything that you say. In your own body now, steps, weight, sleep score. In your relationship, if you were honest, there's some scoreboard running there too. A hobby used to be the literal one room in your life where there was no one to judge. You sat down, you did what you wanted to do with yourself as the only one that got to witness it. That's not a small thing. That was the room where you got to exist without a grade, where you got to be yourself without any judgment. Nothing was riding on it. Nobody was watching. You could just be yourself, genuinely, cheerfully terrible, and it would be okay. And we handed that room over, willingly, mostly. We put a price on it, a tracker on it, and a camera in it. Okay? So if you're walking around with this low, constant hum of being just slightly behind, that's not a personality trait and it's not a chemical imbalance. You should assume that much about yourself. Some of it is just that, you have removed every single space where you are allowed to not be assessed. You've kind of just let go of the rooms where you are allowed to just breathe, where you're allowed to be yourself without worrying about your past or your future and just sit. You didn't lose a hobby, you lost the last place where you could actually be yourself without needing to have an anxiety attack. Being bad at it is the entire point. So here's the turn, and I want to be very unimpressive about it because I'm not selling you a morning routine. The uselessness is the feature, not a side effect. The reason it heals anything is precisely that nothing is riding on it. There's a Pixar film that lands this better than any self-help book I've read, Soul. Guy's a jazz pianist, spends his entire life aiming at one night, the big gig, the thing he becomes. He gets it, and he's standing outside afterwards, and he says he thought he'd feel different. And nothing happened. Same man, same street. And then the film goes back through his ordinary day, the barber's chair, a slice of pizza, a seed spinning down through the lights, all the stuff he had been treating as the waiting room for his entire real life. That's it, the whole thing. And Ratatouille has the other half. The critic writes that not everyone can become a great cook. People always quote the second half of that line, anyone can come from anywhere bit. I want the first half because it's said plainly and the film is still warm about it. Most of us will be average. That is the definition of average. It is literally being like everyone at something. And guess what? You're going to be average at almost everything that you do. You will have a few things that you excel at, but you are still an average person. That's not a tragedy. That's not an insult. That's just how we are. That's what human beings are at most things. And it's not supposed to disqualify you from doing it. Art, poetry, all of these things that are just fun, you don't have to do them because you're good at them. You can just do them. Like, there is an artwork sitting right there. It is shit. But it's still in the frame because I don't give a shit. Because I like to do it every now and then. That's kind of the entire point. Go be bad at something, privately. So let me put it where I actually think it belongs. Nobody sat you down and told you that enjoying something wasn't a good enough reason. It got installed slowly by an economy that made unpaid hours feel irresponsible by platforms that can only see things that you actually produce, and by an entire industry that needs you to believe that you are a project that requires tick marks and check-ins every single day. Of course, you can't answer the question from the start of this video. You were trained out of that answer. It's not your fault that you became this way, but it is your responsibility to become someone you actually love. And that person is not built out of output. You cannot like someone you've only ever assessed. At some point, you have to spend hours on something that will never show up anywhere, that nobody will ever congratulate you for, that will never be good, and let that be enough. Because guess what happened during that entire time? You sat with yourself. You genuinely sat there and listened to yourself about what's going on. You had an honest conversation about who you are with yourself and what you actually cared about. That is what you earn by having a hobby that is genuinely judged by nobody. So pick one thing this week, make it small, make it genuinely useless. Do not tell anybody about it. Don't track it and don't be good at it, okay? And listen, if what you're carrying is heavier than a hobby, if you are properly struggling right now, talk to someone you trust. Friends, family, someone professional. That's not the same problem as this one, and it deserves to be heard through a much more bigger lens. You don't have to carry it on your own. That's it. Go be bad at something privately and genuinely have the conversation with yourself because you're just enjoying it.